My name is Cheryl J. Rodriguez, and a little over a year ago, I believed I was preparing to marry the man I would spend the rest of my life with. Instead, he ended our 4-year relationship before I could propose, because he was afraid my love might embarrass him. Ethan and I met shortly after college at a mutual friend's party. He was studying graphic design and spoke about creativity as if it were something alive. He wanted to build a freelance business, work with major brands, and someday, create a studio of his own. I was a software developer. My work was stable, structured, and well paid, although nobody would have called it glamorous. Ethan once told me that was why we worked. "You keep me grounded," he said. "I make sure you remember to live." I believed him. During his final year of school, Ethan lost his part-time job. Tuition payments were approaching, and his rent was already overdue. I picked up freelance coding projects on weekends and canceled 2 trips with friends so I could help him. For several months, I covered most of his rent. "You're my rock," he would whisper while lying beside me on the couch. Those words made every sacrifice feel worthwhile. I never saw the money as a burden. I believed I was investing in our future, a home, a family, and a life we were building together. 2 years into the relationship, I began saving for a ring. By our 4th year, I had enough for something simple but meaningful. A solitaire diamond set in a clean platinum band. It was not extravagant, but it represented every ordinary morning and difficult season we had survived together. We had moved into a small apartment in the city. I handled most of the bills while Ethan built his portfolio. His prints covered the walls, and half-finished designs were scattered across the dining table. The apartment felt alive because of him. Looking back, there were signs. He began attending more late-night networking events. He guarded his phone and became defensive whenever I asked when he would be home. I blamed the tension on work. Trust can make warning signs look like harmless shadows. Ethan and I had discussed marriage before. Whenever I brought it up, he smiled and said, "Someday." So I decided someday had arrived. I confided in his older brother, Sean. Ethan and Sean spoke almost every day. I believed Sean understood him better than anyone and could tell me whether the ring suited his taste. We met for coffee, and I showed him the small velvet box. Sean's eyes widened. "He's going to lose his mind," he said. "This is perfect." "You cannot tell him." "I swear." I left the cafe feeling lighter than I had in months. I booked a table at our favorite restaurant for Saturday evening and planned to propose quietly after dinner. No public spectacle. No crowd. Just us. The night before the reservation, Ethan came home acting strangely. He dropped his keys beside the door but did not kiss me. He kept his jacket on and avoided looking directly at me. "Do you want to order dinner?" I asked. "We could watch something." "We need to talk." The coldness in his voice made my stomach tighten. We sat on the couch. Ethan crossed his arms. Sean told me about the ring. For a moment, I could not speak. He promised me he wouldn't. "He was excited," Ethan said with a shrug. "Honestly, I'm glad he told me. It saves us both from an awkward situation." "Awkward? You were actually going to propose?" His mouth curved into a smile that looked almost pitying. "I'm dumping you before you embarrass yourself with some huge romantic gesture." The room seemed to tilt. "What are you talking about?" "You're dependable, Cheryl. You're reliable. You look great on paper." "On paper? But this relationship is boring." He gestured around the apartment as though our entire life had become something distasteful. "I need excitement. Passion. Someone who understands the creative side of me." Then he said her name. Jade. She was a designer from one of his professional groups, someone he had mentioned casually several times. "We've been seeing each other for 2 months. The words hollowed out the room. I remembered the nights he stayed late at networking events. The phone turned face down. The sudden impatience whenever I asked simple questions. 2 months? Ethan rolled his eyes. "Please don't make this dramatic." I stared at him. He continued as though explaining something obvious to a child. "Jade is spontaneous. She makes me feel alive. You plan everything. Budgets, schedules, routines. You're safe. But I've outgrown safe." The ring waited in my dresser drawer less than 20 feet away. "You really thought I would say yes?" he asked. "Imagine you kneeling there and me having to reject you in public. It would have been humiliating." I felt anger rising beneath the shock, but I refused to give him the scene he seemed to expect. "So that's it?" "Yes." He leaned back against the couch, looking relieved. "I'll pack tomorrow. You can keep the apartment. Consider it my parting gift." The apartment I had mostly paid for. The life I had supported. The future I had believed belonged to both of us. I stood and picked up my jacket. Ethan watched me carefully. "You're not going to say anything? If that's how you feel, we're finished." No begging. No shouting. No final attempt to remind him of everything I had done. I walked outside, and the apartment door closed behind me with a quiet click. That sound ended 4 years of my life. But it also opened the first door Ethan had never expected me to walk through. I spent that night at my friend Caleb's apartment, lying awake on his couch while the city glowed faintly through the blinds. Ethan's words repeated themselves in my head. Boring. Safe. Embarrassing. I had worked overtime to cover his rent, delayed my own plans to support his career, and stayed beside him through every anxious deadline and rejected client pitch. Somehow, all of that had become evidence that I lacked passion. By morning, the shock had settled into something heavier. Not heartbreak exactly. Humiliation. I returned to the apartment while Ethan was gone. The ring was still inside the dresser drawer. I held the velvet box for several seconds before putting it into my bag. Then I packed my laptop, clothes, books, and anything else that felt unquestionably mine. I left my key on the kitchen counter. The landlord allowed me to transfer the lease entirely into Ethan's name. I had paid most of the rent, but remaining there felt like living inside a crime scene. Within a week, I moved into a small studio across town. The walls were bare. The rooms echoed. There were no unfinished design projects spread across the table or bright prints hanging over the couch. The emptiness hurt, but it belonged to me. That evening, Sean called. I almost ignored him. Curiosity won. "Emily told me what happened," he said. "His name is Ethan." Sean sighed as if I were being difficult. "You know what I mean. Look, he's going through a phase. You were moving too fast with the proposal. I showed you the ring because I trusted you. I had to tell him. He deserved to know. You promised you wouldn't. It was for his own good." The entitlement in his voice stunned me. Then he added, "You should talk to him. Fight for the relationship. Begging a little wouldn't hurt." I almost laughed. Sean had betrayed my confidence. Ethan had cheated, and somehow I was expected to repair everything. "Thank you for the advice," I said. "And thank you for proving I was wrong to trust you." I ended the call and muted both of them. The next few weeks were brutal. I came home after work, dropped my bag near the door, and sat in silence. Some nights, I replayed the breakup until dawn. Other nights, I wondered whether I had truly become predictable and dull. Then I remembered the sacrifices Ethan had once praised. The extra work, the rent, the weekends spent driving him to a design course in another city. He had called those things love when he needed them. He called them boring once someone else offered novelty. I stopped checking his social media. I joined a gym and began hiking on weekends. I accepted a promotion opportunity I had postponed because Ethan's schedule always took priority. Most importantly, I started therapy. My therapist, Dr. Morales, never told me to forgive or forget. She only asked questions. "Why do you believe being dependable makes you less desirable?" "Because Ethan said it did?" "Did he believe that while you were paying his rent?" That question stayed with me. Slowly, I began understanding that Ethan's betrayal did not prove I lacked value. It proved he valued stability only while benefiting from it. 3 months after the breakup, he sent his first message. "Hey, stranger. Been thinking about us? Want to get coffee?" I stared at the screen and felt almost nothing. I did not reply. The following day, another message appeared. "Come on, Cheryl. Let's not end badly." Still nothing. Then the voicemails started. "Things with Jade are fine," he said in one. "I just miss our conversations." I missed the stability we had. Stability. The same word he had used like an insult. I deleted the message. Soon, mutual friends began contacting me. Lisa wrote, "Ethan is struggling. Ghosting him is immature. Be a woman and talk to him." I replied once. "Please do not contact me about Ethan again." Then I blocked her. Sean sent an email after realizing his number was muted. "You owe Ethan closure. Jade isn't perfect, but neither were you. Family sticks together." I archived it. Ethan's messages grew more desperate. "I think I rushed things with Jade. I made a mistake. Please give me one conversation." I stayed silent. My life was beginning to move again. I had become lead developer on a major project. I took photographs during hikes and discovered I enjoyed capturing ordinary moments: fog through trees, empty roads, sunlight across water. The silence no longer felt empty. It felt protected. Around 6 months after the breakup, I heard the first rumors. Ethan and Jade had moved in together quickly, but the excitement had faded. Jade jumped between freelance gigs and left Ethan covering most of their expenses. Then the real story surfaced. Jade had been sleeping with Sean, Ethan's own brother, the same man who had revealed my proposal. Family dinners became screaming matches. Their parents took sides, then switched sides, then blamed everyone except themselves. Ethan lost a major client because the drama consumed his attention. Jade threw him out of the apartment. Mutual friends who once defended him suddenly disappeared. That was when his messages stopped sounding nostalgic. They became desperate. "Jade cheated with Sean. My family is destroyed. You're the only person who understands me. I want the peaceful life we had back." Peace. The life he had thrown away because it embarrassed him. I listened to one voicemail. Then I deleted it. A few nights later, Ethan called from an unfamiliar number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Thank God," he whispered. "Please don't hang up." I stayed silent. I made a terrible mistake. Jade used me. Sean betrayed me. I can't sleep. I'm broke. I want us back. "That is no longer my concern." "But it could be," he said quickly. "You were the real thing. You were always there." "Yes," I replied, "and you treated that like a weakness." His desperation turned sharp. "So you don't care at all?" "No." The word surprised even me with how easily it came. "I've moved on." His breathing changed. "You're heartless. Enjoy your boring life alone." I ended the call and blocked the number. His anger confirmed what his apology never could. He did not miss me. He missed what I had provided. By the time Ethan's relationship with Jade collapsed, I had stopped measuring my days by how long it had been since he contacted me. My promotion had become permanent. I was leading a development team, mentoring 2 junior engineers, and finally accepting opportunities I once would have declined because Ethan needed me available. On weekends, I took my camera into the mountains. Photography began as something to occupy my hands, but it became another way of learning to pay attention to my own life. I photographed fog hanging between trees, old bridges, empty roads, and sunlight breaking across frozen lakes. Ordinary things could be beautiful when someone actually stopped to see them. That realization applied to me too. Then I met Miles. He was an architectural consultant working with my company on a new software platform. He was thoughtful, grounded, and quietly funny. He did not mistake chaos for passion or kindness for weakness. Our first coffee lasted almost 3 hours. When I mentioned that I enjoyed routines, he smiled. "Good. Routines are how people build lives instead of constantly surviving them." The words stayed with me. Miles never pressured me to explain everything about Ethan immediately. He knew there had been a painful breakup, but he waited until I was ready. When I finally told him the full story, he listened without interrupting. "So he called stability boring," Miles said. "Yes. That sounds like someone who had never been forced to live without it." I looked at him across the table. That is exactly what happened. While my life became calmer, Ethan's continued unraveling. Jade and Sean had not simply cheated. They had decided to remain together. According to mutual acquaintances, Sean claimed the affair had revealed a deeper connection. Jade agreed and moved into his apartment almost immediately. Ethan's family fractured. His parents blamed Jade, then Sean, then Ethan for bringing her into their lives. Sean accused Ethan of being emotionally unavailable. Jade claimed she had only cheated because Ethan became controlling after their financial problems began. Everyone had an explanation. No one accepted responsibility. Ethan lost another client after missing multiple deadlines. He moved into a small rental and began borrowing money from friends who quickly grew tired of his constant emergencies. His messages reached me through new numbers and email addresses. I know I don't deserve another chance. I understand what you gave me now. We could rebuild everything. I miss waking up beside someone who made life feel safe. Each message confirmed the same thing. He had not discovered love. He had discovered consequences. His mother called me one afternoon. Cheryl, Ethan is falling apart. I'm sorry to hear that. You could at least speak with him. I already did. He needs someone stable. I almost admired the honesty of that sentence. He had someone stable, I replied. He cheated on her and mocked her for it. He made a mistake. He made choices for months. Her voice sharpened. Families forgive. I am not part of your family. I ended the call. Sean emailed shortly afterward. His message was strangely defensive. He claimed he had never intended to betray Ethan. He said Jade understood him in a way no one else did and that love could not be controlled. The hypocrisy was almost impressive. At the bottom, he added one request. Please talk to Ethan. He listens to you. I deleted the email. Months earlier, Sean had told me to beg for the man who cheated on me. Now, he wanted me to repair the brother whose life he had helped destroy. I had spent too long cleaning up other people's damage. One evening, Ethan left a voicemail that sounded different from the others. There was no rehearsed apology, only crying. I know I ruined everything, he said. I know I treated you like you were replaceable. But you weren't. Jade doesn't know how I take my coffee. She never noticed when I couldn't sleep. She didn't believe in my work when things were hard. You did? I listened until the message ended. For a moment, sadness moved through me. Not longing. Grief for the woman I had been. The one who believed loving harder could make someone loyal. Then Ethan added another voicemail 10 minutes later. You can't seriously throw away 4 years. You owe me one meeting. The sadness vanished. Even at his lowest, he still believed access to me was something he deserved. I blocked the new number. Miles and I continued dating slowly. We traveled for a weekend, cooked dinner together, and spent long evenings talking without anyone performing or manipulating. One night, while he helped me hang a photograph in my apartment, he stepped back and studied it. You have a talent for making quiet things feel important, he said. I almost laughed at the irony. Ethan had taught me that quiet meant boring. Miles understood that quiet could mean safe. Nearly a year after the breakup, Miles invited me to dinner at a small downtown restaurant. We were laughing over appetizers when I noticed someone sitting alone at the bar. Ethan. He looked thinner, exhausted, and older than I remembered. Our eyes met. His face changed instantly. Before I could look away, he stood and began walking toward our table. Ethan stopped beside our table before either Miles or I could speak. Up close, the changes were even more obvious. His hair was longer and unkempt. Dark circles sat beneath his eyes, and his shirt looked as though he had slept in it. He carried himself differently, too. The confidence that once bordered on arrogance had collapsed into something restless and uncertain. Cheryl, he said. Miles glanced at me but remained calm. I placed my wineglass on the table. Ethan. He looked at Miles, then pulled an empty chair toward us without asking. Do you mind if I sit for a minute? He was already lowering himself into it. Yes, actually, I said. We're having dinner. Ethan barely seemed to hear me. I can't believe you're here. I've been thinking about you constantly. Miles's expression remained composed, but his eyes sharpened. Ethan leaned toward me. Jade and Sean are engaged. I already knew, but I said nothing. Can you believe that? He continued. My own brother. My family barely speaks anymore. My parents blame me for bringing Jade around. Sean acts like he did nothing wrong, and she keeps telling everyone they found true love. His voice cracked. I lost almost everything. I watched him carefully. The man sitting across from me was suffering. That much was real. But pain did not automatically create accountability. I'm sorry your life became difficult, I said. His eyes brightened with sudden hope. I knew you'd understand. That isn't what I said. He hesitated. I'm living in a terrible apartment. My freelance work is barely keeping me afloat. Half our friends disappeared after everything came out. He looked around the restaurant, as if embarrassed by his own confession. I understand what I lost now. Miles remained silent beside me. Ethan reached toward my hand. I pulled it away before he touched me. You were my real life, he said. What we had was peaceful. It was solid. I threw it away because I thought excitement mattered more. You didn't just leave, I replied. You cheated for months. I know. You mocked me for wanting to marry you. His face tightened. I was scared. No. You were cruel. He looked down. I thought Jade understood me. And now that she chose someone else, you want me back. That isn't fair. It's exactly what happened. Tears gathered in his eyes. I'm not saying we have to go back to how things were immediately. We can start slowly. Coffee. Talking. Therapy, if you want. He glanced toward Miles. I see you're with someone, and that's great. But he doesn't know you the way I do. Miles finally spoke. You don't know her anymore. Ethan's face hardened for a second, then softened again when he turned toward me. We had 4 years, Cheryl. That has to mean something. It did. My answer seemed to surprise him. It meant enough that I stayed loyal. It meant enough that I paid your rent, supported your work, and planned a future with you. I paused. But history is not a contract requiring me to accept you back. His tears began falling. I made one mistake. You made hundreds of decisions. He shook his head. You don't understand what it's like to have your own family betray you. The irony hung between us. I understand perfectly. His face went still. For the first time, he seemed to realize he was describing exactly what he had done to me. I turned slightly toward Miles. This is Miles. Miles gave Ethan a polite nod. We were enjoying our evening before you joined us. Ethan looked between us. So this is serious? Yes. How serious? That's none of your business. His breathing grew uneven. You can't replace 4 years with some new guy. Miles didn't replace you. I held Ethan's gaze. He met the person I became after surviving you. The words struck him harder than I expected. He sat motionless. Then his sadness twisted into anger. So that's it? You're just going to sit there acting superior while my life falls apart? I'm not responsible for holding your life together. You used to care. I used to believe you cared too. His jaw tightened. She'll never understand you like I did, he said, nodding toward Miles. When the excitement wears off, you'll see. Miles's expression did not change. I almost smiled. You still think peace is what happens after excitement dies, I said. That was always your problem. Ethan stood abruptly. Several diners glanced toward us. You deserve each other, he muttered. Enjoy your safe, boring little life. The insult no longer hurt. It sounded exhausted now, like a weapon he had used too many times until the edge disappeared. I intend to, I replied. He stared at me, waiting for something. An apology, hesitation, proof that he still mattered. I gave him none. Finally, he turned and walked away. The restaurant slowly returned to its normal rhythm. Miles waited until Ethan had left before asking, Are you all right? I took a breath. Yes. And I meant it. Months earlier, seeing Ethan broken might have felt like justice. Instead, I felt only distance. He was no longer the center of my pain. He was simply someone who had once been part of my life. Miles reached across the table. You handled that with more grace than he deserved. I spent too long believing grace meant letting people return whenever they regretted losing me. What does it mean now? Leaving without becoming cruel. We finished dinner. Outside, the streets glowed beneath the city lights. Miles and I walked slowly, discussing the weekend trip we had planned. A few weeks later, I found myself looking at engagement rings again. This time, there was no anxiety, no secret fear that my love would be mocked. Miles valued the routines Ethan had called boring. He appreciated my steadiness, respected my ambition, and never treated my care as something he was entitled to receive. I had once believed Ethan prevented me from embarrassing myself with a proposal. The truth was different. He prevented me from marrying someone who saw loyalty as a convenience and peace as a failure of imagination. The ring I bought for him remained inside a drawer for months. Eventually, I sold it and used part of the money to purchase a new camera. The first photograph I took with it was of Miles standing beside a mountain lake at sunrise. Quiet water, soft light. Nothing dramatic, nothing chaotic. Just beautiful. My name is Cheryl J. Rodriguez. The man I loved discarded me because I was too safe. Then his exciting new life collapsed, and he begged for the peace he had thrown away. I did not take him back. Not because I wanted revenge, because I finally understood that peace is not something you return to after chaos disappoints you. It is something you protect.